Bookcase and Coffee presents Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance.
Welcome to a quick shot of romance. I am Becky, and joining me for this episode is podcast contributor Lindsey. Hi, Lindsey.
Hi, Becky.
So this episode is airing in April, which we are highlighting and featuring indie authors in April. So I gave very narrow parameters in what books we could do. We picked authors that were truly indie, that haven't published under a small press or in any other author's world. So it was kind of hard to pick books, but we found a good one here, I think.
Very good.
So on this episode, we are reviewing Think Outside the Boss by Olivia Hayle. This is book one in her New York Billionaires. So, Lindsey, read us the synopsis from Goodreads.
Thinking outside the box resulted in the best night of my life, until I discovered the man I spent it with is my new boss. Attending a secret sex party where clothes are optional wasn't a life goal of mine, but when the exclusive invitation ends up in my mailbox by accident, well, who wouldn't be curious? It's not like I'm going to do anything. The handsome stranger I meet has different plans. One glance across the crowded party, and an hour later, we're stretched out on silk. Our night together is glorious. No names and no regrets. But I'd forgotten there's always a price to pay for pleasure. I find out the cost when I start my internship, because who is the new venture capitalist CEO? Tristan Conway, aka my handsome stranger, powerful, determined, intriguing, and single. Oh, and he wants to see me in his office. Thinking outside the box got me into this mess. Now if I could just stop thinking about the boss.
So this released June 7th of 2021. It's a one-night stand, single dad, co-worker, age gap, one bed, billionaire romance. And it pops at 11%, which I thought, it was great. So let's talk about their meeting, because it is all by chance. Frederica, the heroine, she goes by Freddy, gets a mysterious envelope from her it's for her former roommate or for the former tenant of her apartment.
Yeah. The former tenant. So she's just moved to New York. She's living in basically a shoebox, and this mysterious gold envelope arrives with an invitation for the old tenant.
Yeah, and a mask too, right? Wasn't there a mask in it?
A mask. Yep.
And it's an invitation to an exclusive party. She has to show the ticket, which is the invitation, and she has to wear the mask. And identities are secret.
But it's also very elite. It's not something she'd have access to without this mysterious invitation, because they pay $20,000 a year to anonymously go to this party. There are rules and structure around how people interact at these parties and what happens at these parties. So it's very exclusive.
It is very exclusive, and it is elite. And so Freddy goes, and just to see, kind of that moment of the wild, stepping outside of what is expected of her. And she flirts and meets a very handsome older man. And they decide to spend the night together.
And they do.
It is sexy. It is sexy. He is a dirty talker, guys. Like, dirty talker. It was so sexy. And then she falls asleep after they have had sex, and she wakes up alone. He is gone. And then
you fast forward to her new day, her new job at work.
Yeah, her new job. And one of the things I really did love about the sex club part of this, that was not the focal point of this story. It catapulted the story, but it never really comes back into play.
And it was very interesting. It was a very interesting way for them to meet. And I think it lined up well with the story and what we know about both characters later on, that they would meet that way.
Yeah. Well, because Tristan is a single dad. He is the single parent to his nephew who was orphaned at age 3. And I think the little boy is like 5 or 6 now.
I think in the story, so it's like 5 or 6 years later, and I think he's closer to like 9, 8 or 9. Yeah.
Age of children is hard. This is why baby math is hard for authors.
Yeah.
But so he only, because he's also a billionaire, he owns a venture capital business, and he has 3 other partners. And the theory behind their venture capital business is that when they take on a new company, they one of them takes the place as CEO. So like, this is Tristan's book. The next book is the next partner and how he has to take over the business that they're buying or investing money in at that time. So, you know, here's Tristan. He only goes out to this party in a manner to hook up. And it's only when his nephew is not around. Like, it's, you know, he was with friends the night that Tristan was out. So then you fast forward, and Frederica is in New York City to start an internship it's a marketing company, correct?
I'm not sure exactly what it is. She works in a strategy department, which is kind of, I think, like marketing, but also like corporate strategy, how to basically be as profitable and value added as you can be.
So as she's getting her tour from HR, she is introduced to the new owner and CEO, Tristan, her one night stand.
So I think it's actually she's introduced to her coworkers, and they're trashing the CEO a little bit. And then she fires off that naughty email to him.
That's right. I forgot
and then
about
like
that.
Because like they talk, like the HR department does, like that's when they introduce her to the concept of the CEO and like what his role is and whether or not they expect her to see him. And they're basically like, oh, he's never around, or like he never comes down here to interact with the little people. But then like he sends out an email about the company party. She is trying to bond with her coworkers, and instead of forwarding the email, she replies, and it is sassy, and she signs it as Freddy. So
right.
Tristan,
and she basically says
meeting.
that, well, and basically she says his pizza party is stupid. This does not show you that you appreciate us. We deserve better. And signs it Freddy and sends it off. And then he calls her to his office. And shock of all shocks,
he thinks that he's going to be meeting with a man.
He does. It was so funny and awkward, but hilarious. I mean, I loved it because he was kind of taken aback. He didn't know quite what to do.
Yeah, but then also like it becomes like her position in the company actually becomes something that he needs. Like he needs somebody who's new, who doesn't have loyalties built in the company yet. And he winds up working with her to figure out who is the mole, because their company is leaking very important information that's costing them clients. And it's he thinks from her department. So with her being new, he takes the opportunity to also use that as an opportunity, but it's got the caveat that they can only meet outside of work, not any kind of work communication. So that kind of like puts things in motion for them to start building a relationship outside of work. Like they have to meet out of work hours, because he doesn't want anyone to know that he suspects there's a mole, for one, or that he's investigating a mole.
Yeah. And the coworkers are interesting. They add a level to the story that really just, I mean, it adds to kind of that corporate espionage piece to it, because you're not sure who is the mole.
No, you're not. And it was written really well. I thought at one point it was going to be her boss. I was so convinced it was going to be her boss because of how icy their their first first introductions are. And I was like, wait a second, like her boss is amazing. I loved her boss by the end of the book. But it was really interesting. And then one of the things that they do, like in a lot of stories where the female character is new in city, which she definitely is. Freddie's only been in the city for 2 months. She's from Philadelphia. She has no friends in New York. She's new in city. A lot of times what they do is the female character falls in love and then she's only got the relationship. That's not the case. Like Freddy goes out and does other things. She forms relationships. She spends time with her coworkers, and she makes sure that she's prioritizing the things that are important to her, that she's not just getting caught up in this whirlwind romance. And I think like that adds like gravity to her relationship with Tristan, because like she does have a lot to lose, but at the same time, like he's not the only thing she has in New York.
Yeah.
Building a life outside of him.
Yeah, I did like that. Although saying that, I will say there was great chemistry between Freddy and Tristan.
Oh, yes.
And they were drawn to each other. And I really enjoyed. So this is the first book I have ever read by this author. And I like how she did it. It was through emails and through banter. And it wasn't just perceived attraction. Like you saw, where they were going and what they were thinking. And I really enjoyed that.
I did too. I like that they decided that it was something worth pursuing, and they knew that they could pursue it because Tristan was very clear from the beginning, like his role as CEO was temporary. They sell off these companies. Like her position at the company was probably more secure long-term than his. So it was a unique situation where it was like a for now secrecy to their relationship because it would have career implications for her.
But I think I also liked that too. So sometimes billionaire romances, they can come off as flippant and we have to keep it a secret and there's like a shame to hooking up with the intern and stuff like that. And that was not the case in this book. Mm-hmm. He wasn't ashamed to be connected to her at all. It was more her like, no, we have to keep our distance because,
and I don't want to respectful of that. He was very respectful of that. He acknowledged many times in the book that she had more to lose from somebody discovering their relationship than him. And I think that was handled in such a realistic way because I mean, in a workplace, especially like most of her coworkers are male, like that is the case for women. A lot of women have to work harder, or like, there's more perceptions that shape women in the career world. So I thought it was really nice to see him being respectful of that and trying to really prioritize her career, her priorities, making sure that he wasn't going to hold her back in any way. He was not like your average billionaire at all.
He wasn't a playboy. He wasn't a flirt. He was very down to earth and grounded. And desperation isn't the right word, but he strived to be the best example for his nephew. And it was like he didn't care what was going on. That was always his priority. And I really liked their relationship. I liked their connections. I like how he comes across. And even though Freddy is kind of young, she had a maturity about her too. She didn't jump to, certain conclusions about him or what was acceptable. She didn't try to push the boundaries either. Mm-mm. Like she understood that, this is here and that is there kind of stuff.
Yeah, but she also wasn't compromising on the impact of their relationship to her work. She worked very hard to get to where she was. She knew her value. She had confidence in what she had to offer. I loved her confidence in herself as a whole. This is one of the stories where a lot of times what you see in the billionaire trope is very well-off billionaire, playboy, dates a lot of supermodels. Girl feels inferior because like ordinary girl, why would you, like what do you have to offer? There was none of that in this story at all. There was never any kind of questioning like why. It was very much like circumstantial. Their conflicts were very much like him being concerned, like he's so firmly locked into his life in New York. He has a kid, he's got a life, he's got a company, he's got business partners, and she's just starting off. She's just got her master's degree, her MBA. She's just getting her foot in the door. She's figured out what she wants. She's very ambitious, and he recognizes that in her from when he was that age. But whereas his life was kind of derailed when his sister and brother-in-law passed away and he inherited a child, like she has possibilities. So he tries not to really hold her back. It's just so thoughtful. Their interactions are very thoughtful and mature. And I liked that. No drama, no unnecessary drama at all.
There was no unnecessary drama in this book, which I really did. I enjoyed that piece quite a bit. We actually talked a little bit about it being a bit of a palate cleanser, because if you've read a high angst, high drama book, this one was just the perfect amount of spice and sexiness, with great characters and a great relationship with a very, very satisfying HEA.
Yes, I really love the HEA and the epilogue. And they talked about New Mexico.
Okay, so let's get to our 3 questions. Lindsey, did you like this book?
Yes, it was my first time reading Olivia Hayle. I really enjoyed it, and I'm actually going to be continuing the series. I was really excited. I was really excited about the poker game when they made the bet on who would get the next company, which kind of leaves the breadcrumbs for book 2. And I was really excited about that. The next company is a matchmaking company. So.
Yes, it is a matchmaking company. I also enjoyed this book again. This was my first book by Olivia Hayle, and I actually have read a couple more from her. And so I really enjoyed it. I went back and read the Seattle Billionaires series that she has, which is very, very good. Anyway, who would typically like this book?
I think any fans of low drama contemporary romance, or if you just like billionaire romance, it's a really fresh take on the genre, I thought.
Yeah, I would say billionaire romance. If you're a fan of Avery Flynn or T.L. Swan, but want something with a little less angst than T.L. Swan, you should totally pick up this book. It does have stopover kind of vibes to it, but with no angst and no drama. So would you recommend this book?
Yes, very much.
Same here. I would totally recommend this book. I actually did recommend this book. It's always delightful to find new authors, and especially because she has several series out. So if you like this book, I've read the Seattle series, and I think there's another series out there in the world too. So that's always helpful. I love a good rabbit hole.
Yeah, because then you get like a little bit of a backlist to work through. And usually it's pretty reliable when you have that it's going to be something you like. Yeah. So I'm excited about that too, because I think she's got like 7 or 8 books.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, Lindsey, thank you so much for joining us for this quick shot of romance. As always, it is delightful to chat books with you.
It was such a good time. Thanks, Becky.
Until next time, everyone, happy reading.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.